we have had, at least to my knowledge, 3 conversations that have kind of evolved into a conversation about video games that have then become the cold open of an episode of ours. So let's make this number, 4 or 5, whatever it is. In a surprise twist, I was at a Walmart Supercenter, if it matters, and the new Avatar, like James Cameron's Avatar video game, was on sale from like $70 to $20.
Yeah, it's pretty new, I believe.
Yeah, it's very new.
Last last year maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely I would consider that a bad sign. Typically, is when something like that is on enough of a sale. I didn't know anything about it.
Frontiers of Pandora. Is that
yes.
It?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about like the plot it would have. I haven't seen the sequel to the original Avatar, and I've only probably seen that movie, 2 or 3 times over the course of its life now, its lifespan. Really, I think my relationship with that series comes from living in Florida, being at the time a Disney annual pass holder. Now it's gotten so fucking expensive that I haven't had one in years.
Right,
but I had a pass when they had kind of made that section of the theme park. So I didn't really know what to expect, but it's a lot of fun. It's a really pretty game. It's different.
Is it like an RPG, or how does it play?
So it plays a lot like Far Cry. If you're familiar, it's like first person. It's very like kind of survivally. You have to craft stuff and like eat food is a big mechanic, kind of like Breath of the Wild. But what made me think to bring it up in this conversation is that you are somebody who is known far and wide for your attraction to blue people.
Yeah. That's mainly what I'm known for.
Right. I think it's like, you love movies. People know you for that. You have a very distinct hairstyle. You have curly hair. It's very distinct.
Right.
And that you are both romantically interested and sexually attracted to blue humanoid creatures.
Yeah, that's true.
A couple examples, the Blue Meanie from the Beatles animated movies. Obviously the Genie, Robin Williams's and Will Smith's, which a lot of people forget about, but that exists.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the scariest thing we'll ever talk about on this show. No, it's very good. I know you like that series an awful lot. I didn't expect for it to tie so heavily into the like the kind of the through plot of those movies.
Yeah.
What's funny is that I told you, because you would come home and I'm sitting playing it, and you're like, well, how much does it tie in? And I gave you as best of an explanation as I could. And you're like, well, hold on. And you looked it up and got
I had to like go in the other room and like quickly Google it, because I'm someone who really loves timelines and where things fit like in the chronology of something. So whether it's a franchise or, something like this where, so far we've gotten 2 movies, we're going to get more. And they have like a long time between them. Yeah. Like in universe. And it's like, okay, well then where does this fall? That's interesting to me.
Yeah. And, this falls obviously after the first, kind of during the second. But I haven't gotten very far into it, but I'm excited for it for a number of reasons. But the most fun element of the game is, there are humans in the story, and you are not an avatar, not, a per human piloting like a Na'vi body. You are a Na'vi, so you're huge. You tower over the humans in the game. But the enemies are the industrialist humans, the whatever the acronym is, I think RFD or something
like that.
But they are the ones that are mining for unobtainium, a ridiculous thing. But you are being so tall and so fast and agile through the jungle, through those mean streets of the jungle, that a single melee attack will kill any human, because you're fucking huge. You're 9 feet tall. You're very lean muscled, like Michael Phelps. Right. But you don't look as much like an aardvark. And so that's all I do in that game. I have abandoned weaponry. I've abandoned playing the game. All I do is I run around and I find the humans mining or whatever. And I just ding ding. I do the fucking Henry Cavill arm reload from Mission Impossible, and I punch those tiny, insignificant ant-like human beings to death. And it's satisfying. Hello, all you Glenn and Glendas, and welcome back to the Third Channel Podcast,
where we delve into the horror franchises you love from the perspectives of a lifelong horror fan
and a newbie to the genre. I'm Patrick Joseph.
And I'm Derek.
And today the only thing we're here to talk about is horror. I had a coworker of mine who I've worked with for a very long time ask me what PJ stood for. And I was like, oh, I've known you for, easily 8 years.
Right.
And so I figured to our audience at home and abroad, I would mention that my name is Patrick Joseph.
Wow.
But I go by PJ because that's faster.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Still gets spelled wrong on a Starbucks cup.
That's true. Oh, that's a fun story. That won't take very long. I'm sure people out there, you have crazy misspellings of your name on cups or to-go orders, wherever you go. The meme is the Starbucks order, but it's everywhere. It's fucking everywhere. The most egregious example of that was at a Starbucks. And they said, what's your name? And I said, PJ. And she looked at me. She's like, what is it? I was like, what the fuck? It's 2 letters. So I said them again. I went PJ. She went, okay. And I get the cup and I brought it to you because at the time we worked together, and I bring you the cup and I'm like, dude, look at this. And it was PEJO. Pejo, which is great.
Yeah.
There was a time where I had an active Instagram account, and that was the
handle,
the profile picture.
Oh, right.
Was
the cup.
The cup. Yeah.
I forgot that. It's been so long.
Bit of housekeeping before we launch in. I'm even trepidatious to say the title of this movie because of how the intro plays out and immediately what you understand it is. Now we'll do that first. The movie that we were discussing today is the follow-up film from Funny Man Don Mancini in the Child's Play universe, Seed of Chucky.
Right.
Now, first bit of housekeeping. Seed means cum. It means nut. That's what it is here. It's we're gonna talk about insemination, both natural and artificial.
Yeah,
We are going to talk about we're going to talk about masturbation. We're going to talk about ejaculation. We'll probably talk about doll erections and human erections. This is going to be our most sexually perverse episode that we've done so far. Because the plot necessitates it. Not because it's who we are. It's because of who we are a little bit, but we've been able to avoid it for quite a while. But unfortunately now we are in a movie called The Seed of Chucky, so we're not really going to be able to avoid it at all.
Unfortunately not.
Do you have any housekeeping?
None that I can really think of.
I'd say the only personal housekeeping I have is please forgive me and the quality of my voice. I am still sick because the flu, like everything lately, is really fucking terrible and doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
No, it isn't. I think the only housekeeping I'll give, and we tend to not do this all that much, but rate, review, subscribe, all those things.
We've had a lot of, and I don't want to sound like I'm being braggadocious. It's a genuine glad surprise. You and I kind of made this with the understanding that, like, doesn't matter if anybody listens. We're making this to have something for us that we'd like to share with others. And if those people come to the water, great, but you can't make them and you can't make them drink it when they're there. But we have had quite a reaction to this, which has made us very happy. So if you like us, definitely let us know that. Links and all kinds of places you can reach out to us. But yeah, tell people that like spooky stuff. Tell your spooky friends.
Tell your spooky friends.
Tell the ghost of Wes Craven to listen to our show.
Yeah, I hope he is.
Well, I mean, if we're doing ghosts, please somebody get in touch with the ghost of Vincent Price. Because like our outro's fine. We recorded it. It's canned. We just plug, Ty plugs and plays it. Ty.
Oh, man. But what if we had Vincent Price doing it?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, okay. That'll have to be a note. Ty, what we need from you on top of editing and making us sound as good as we do. The other thing that we need you to do is stay handsome. And then another thing that we need you to do is we're going to need you to get out your Ouija board. We're going to need you to do a seance, get in contact with the ghost of Vincent Price, and ask him what the fuck the Tingler was all about.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut in our show's lore.
That's true.
As always, we move swiftly to imdb.com. I'll read the whole thing. It's m.imdb.com/title.
Please don't.
Okay, surprised by that. Chucky and Tiffany are resurrected by their innocent, gender-confused child, Glenn/Glenda, and hit Hollywood, where a movie depicting the killer doll's murder spree is underway. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. The only other thing that I will say is that the image on IMDb's website for this movie, like the thumbnail, and I commented about a thumbnail a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
But this one is one of the funniest bits.
Right.
I want to go on record of saying, of all of these movies, the funniest joke in any of these movies comes from this movie. And if you go to imdb.com to the description that I just read, you'll see the thumbnail of the clip that is the funniest. And when we get there, we'll get there.
Seed of Chucky, released November 11th, 2004. Directed by and written by Don Mancini.
This one's directed by him?
Yeah.
Is that why it feels like a sort of straight to VHS?
Maybe. It's his directorial debut.
It is nuts and bolts only. There seems to be, and we'll get more into this, I'm sure, but there is almost no vision at all. It's just a flat shot where a scene plays out. They do shot, reverse shot for conversations, and then it just goes on to the next scene. It is very flat.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times that more has to do with the cinematographer than the director, depending on the movie, obviously. But yeah, written and directed by Don Mancini, produced by David Kirshner, as always. Also produced by Corey Cienega, I believe. Sienega.
Cienega, something like that?
Something like that.
Okay.
Cinematographer is Vernon Layton. The genre stuff that he did was Under Suspicion, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, so the sequel, not the original. Second Nature, and Day of the Flowers. Most of that I do not know what that is.
Yeah, me either.
Editor is Chris Dickens. Now, Chris Dickens has worked with Edgar Wright on several things. He worked on his TV show Spaced, Shaun of the Dead, and Hot Fuzz. But then he also edited Slumdog Millionaire, Les Miserables, like the 2012, the one with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
He edited Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic.
Yeah. With Taron Egerton.
Yeah. And The Crow, the 2024 Crow, which, no
one's ever seen.
No one saw.
Yeah, no one can tell if it's good or bad because no one's ever seen it.
Nope. The budget for this movie, which, like you said, this one doesn't feel quite the same as the last one.
I'm going to guess they dip back down and they're at like $10
million.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Down from 25.
I'm even surprised that it's 12.
And honestly, you can take that number and the box office then does the same dip. So from 50 million to 24.8 million.
Well, what I will say is that they made their double. So it's technically a success.
Yeah, that's all they needed to do. This is, Don Mancini, we've talked about a ton. He's a writer, and then he has directed, and pretty much his whole career, his filmography is these Child's Play and Chucky movies. He did he wrote a couple episodes for the Hannibal TV show. He did a couple episodes for Channel Zero, which is like a creepypasta show that was on Shudder. And then he has directed and wrote Seed, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, and he's the showrunner and writer for Chucky the series.
It's just strange because I don't think anybody who gets in the creative field ever thinks, oh, this thing that I'm doing first, that's only what I'm doing. Like, that's it for the rest of me doing stuff.
Yeah, because it's like, James Cameron, he came out and, did some big sci-fi stuff, some horror stuff. And then he eventually got to a franchise where he's like, you know what? From here on out, I'm just doing Avatar.
You did it. Mm-hmm. You blended them. Ladies and gentlemen,
found a way.
Derek Rosenberg is a professional. I brought up a game that had nothing to do with any of this. And as a joke, he was like, okay, well, how are you going to blend it into the episode? And I said, I'm not gonna. It's a non sequitur. Look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, king of the radio, Derek Rosenberg.
That's all I'm good for. David Kirshner, we are aware of everything that he's done. Actually, we're probably not. There's a ton of things out there that he's done that we're not aware of. The other producer, Corey Cienega. Again, I am not sure how to pronounce that. I should look these things up, but I don't. They were assistant producer on The Spirit Gallery. They were executive producer on Bride of Chucky. They, along with David Kirshner, were the producers on Frailty, which is the horror film directed by and starring Bill Paxton. They were the producers on Secondhand Lions, which is the
Michael Caine and whatever his
Robert
name
Duvall.
is. Yeah. That's a good movie.
It's a really good movie. They were producers on a film called Miss Potter, Martian Child, and the horror film Christie, which is a 2014 slasher flick that takes place over Thanksgiving weekend.
Okay.
I saw it several years ago. So production on the new film. So as we stated last time at the end of our last episode and at the end of the commentary for Bride of Chucky, they mentioned that they're already got plans for Son of Chucky. Mm. And so production on that began October of 1998. So shortly after Bride of Chucky, 2 days, in fact, after the release of Bride of Chucky. Ronnie Yu, who's the director of that film, was unable to return, scheduling conflicts there. So Don Mancini, who is a openly gay man, he was interested in exploring the LGBTQ related themes in the next film. And he wrote the screenplay inspired by the 1953 cult classic Glenn or Glenda.
Not to be confused with Glengarry Glen Ross.
Correct. So the gender confused child of Chucky and Tiffany is named, Glenn and Glenda in this. It comes from the 1953 movie directed by Ed Wood.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's one of his.
I didn't know that this was even a reference to something.
Oh, yes. So Ed Wood, I think it was one of his early movies that he did where Ed Wood himself portrayed a cross-dresser who went by both Glenn and Glenda.
Okay.
And I believe, I've never seen that film, but I believe kind of the play that they do in this where Glenn is like sweet and happy and like, confused about who he is in this world. And then Glenda being like a little more twisted, a little more violent.
Like a psycho murderer,
like
right?
That kind of also comes from Glenn or Glenda, I believe. Okay. But Glenn or Glenda, I'm sure we're going to use both names throughout this entire episode. Mm-hmm. They are basically, Chucky and Tiffany's kid, and they are suffering from gender dysphoria. And he was using that, meaning Mancini was using that as a metaphor for his own coming out. And he also decided to continue the shift in the series from like a straight up horror film more into the comedy realm.
At this point, he decided to abandon the horror element completely.
Yes. Right. And his note, I guess, for that is that like a lot of horror franchises, the longer they kind of got on, the more like silly they got.
Eventually you get to Jason X.
Yeah, right. Because like the audiences are just like familiar with the characters. And so it's like they're in on the joke. So Universal Pictures, they have produced the previous 3 films. They were expected, whenever he turned in what he turned in, they expected a more conventional slasher film with the son being a murderous villain. So they rejected that script. They gave the note, and I quote, "This is too gay."
Jesus.
So production, was on hold for a while. It finally resumed when the project was approved by Focus Features. And that was after Focus Features approved it after the successful release of Eli Roth's Cabin Fever in 2003. And so they released it under their Rogue Pictures, side or production company.
Right.
Something that was more akin to, releasing horror films. But they're all I think Universal is still the parent company. It's just not Universal Pictures themselves distributing this. And then in 2001, Don Mancini had written an alternate script after Universal had rejected its first draft. And that draft was titled Chucky Goes Psycho. And it had Chucky and Tiffany escaping from the cemetery of the last movie. And they stayed in the Bates Motel for a night.
Lord.
And then while staying there, they kill someone, and Tiffany is forced to bring the body to the trash cans outside before being killed by a bunch of teenagers driving. And then Chucky would go after those teenagers throughout the rest of the movie for revenge, like I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it would have been a more straightforward slasher movie, not dealing with the smart, flashy meta humor that, trying to please Universal. But thankfully, Rogue Films agreed to produce it, the original draft that Mancini wrote.
Because I got to tell you, that sounds awful. It sounds really boring.
And it sounds like not something that, the director or the writer is passionate about.
Not only that, but also it doesn't sound like where the franchise was going. It's that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm happy that
I wouldn't even call it a step back. It would just be an odd.
No, it's a linear move.
Yeah.
It doesn't move the series backwards at all, but it doesn't move the series forward. It moves it into a direction that it shouldn't go. So I'm happy that we avoided that. And then, thanks, Rogue Pictures.
And then it allowed them to use that title in the movie within a movie as kind of a nod to that as well. Oh,
Rogue Pictures probably doesn't exist anymore.
I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But Seed of Chucky was filmed almost entirely in Romania. At Castle Studios, I believe is how you pronounce that.
Okay.
It was obviously in order to save costs. I'm sure there's some, great tax write-offs. But Mancini was trying to replicate the look of older horror films by shooting the film mostly on sound stages, and was influenced by the filmmaking styles of Brian De Palma and Dario Argento.
The whole movie takes place in a house.
Yeah. I think it's more of certain camera angles or the way that they move and things like that. Being built on sound stages, because it looks like an actual house, but all of that is soundstage. All of that is built for the puppeteers, obviously.
That makes
floors.
sense.
And they point out in some of the special features that the flooring is a lot of the time in her home tile. And it's because any of those tiles could be popped up and they could have the puppet come up out of those spots.
What I will say is that the take that it needed to look soundstagey for old Hollywood, no, I don't buy that at all.
No,
it's
either works for one scene.
Yeah.
And it's the movie within a movie scene.
Right.
So it's supposed to look artificial.
But even that, they pull back and it's oh no, it's just a movie set.
But that's what I mean. It works because it's that.
Right. But that gives you a meta sense of filmmaking. That doesn't make me go, oh, that reminds me of Katharine Hepburn. It's no, that's not how that works. You can't hold up a picture of the Twilight Zone and be remember, it's black and white. No, this doesn't, you're shooting all of this in a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a California looking house too.
Just to go in a little detail for Castle Film Romania, it's a Romanian film studio and production company started in 1991 by a Romanian film producer, Vlad Paunescu, and Hollywood producer Charles Band. Charles Band I've mentioned before. He was the producer for the Ghoulies films.
Oh no.
And then he had his production company, one of them is Full Moon Pictures, and they did the movies, the movie franchises, I should say, Trancers, Puppet Master, The Ginger Dead Man, and Evil Bong. So real quality stuff.
Yeah.
All of the animatronics and makeup effects were the handiwork of designer Tony Gardner. Tony Gardner is another name that we've heard before. He also appears in the movie playing himself, and his company is called Alterion Incorporated. Now, Tony Gardner, he worked on Return of the Living Dead, The Blob remake, Dark Man, The Addams Family, like the 90s movies, Army of Darkness, which is where we've talked about him before.
Okay.
So we've seen his work. Hocus Pocus. So that's the Kirshner Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
You know, he does the makeup effects in all of the Jackass films
Okay.
for like
Bad Grandpa or whatever.
yes.
Yeah.
He actually, I believe he was nominated. I don't know if he won, but like Academy Award for the makeup on Bad Grandpa.
An Academy, like an Oscar?
Like an Oscar,
What the
if I'm
fuck?
not mistaken.
No, but remember, the movie that did win an Oscar for its makeup was David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
That is unfortunately true.
Yeah.
Tony Gardner also worked on Zombieland 1 and 2, and he goes on to do the rest, Curse Cult, the Chucky series, and M. Night Shyamalan's Old. He also, and this is something we talked about off mic and we wanted to bring up last time we talked about him and we didn't. Tony Gardner helped create the signature helmets for Daft Punk.
Yes.
He also built the animatronic robot for their Technologic music video, and he wrote and directed the Daft Punk music video for The Prime Time of Your Life. So he's done a lot of work with them.
It is the stance of the Third Channel podcast that Daft Punk's album, Random Access Memories, cover to cover, first to last track, is the best album ever released of all time. There was a period of time where we mentioned this in our episode 0. If you didn't listen to that and you're listening to this without having heard that, Derek and I met basically working a job together. We had some control over the music that played in this retail location. And my God, if that album didn't play every day.
Yep. Between that and their Tron soundtrack. Yeah,
so
for sure.
If there's two things we love, is Daft Punk and it's Chunky.
Those are the only things.
And his Seed.
Yeah. The other weird thing, I always try and find like some weird whatever to point out here. This I caught watching some of the special features the other night. Doug Jones, who is an actor.
Yes.
He was in Hocus Pocus. He played
Billy the Zombie.
Billy Butcherson.
One of the most popular roles, I think, of his, probably his most popular, is the physical performance and then the physical and vocal performance of Abe Sapien in Hellboys 1 and 2.
Correct. That was with Guillermo del Toro directing. He also worked with Guillermo in Pan's Labyrinth, where he played both the Faun and the Pale Man. Speaking
of Guillermo, not del Toro, but De La Cruz, he is also the Baron, recurring character in the What We Do in the Shadows TV show. He's wonderful in that. He's because the whole thing's a comedy, but they have like extraordinarily made him up. So it's like he's got like skin sagging in his armpits, and he looks like an ancient like Legacy of Cain vampire. So funny. His performance in that is so good.
I still need to check that show out. Continued work with Guillermo del Toro. He worked on Crimson Peak and The Shape of Water. He plays the basically the Gill Man.
He plays the water.
Yes, and then I think most famously, he was the Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four: The Rise of the Silver Surfer. That's what people know him from.
Yeah, and everybody knows the guy who played Doctor Doom from Nip Tuck.
Yeah. I say all of that to say, while watching the special features, there is maybe a 2-second, 3-second shot where Doug Jones is shown doing puppeteer work on this movie. He did uncredited puppeteer work on Chucky.
For the Chucky
Seed
doll?
of Chucky. He worked the arms, or he worked the legs, or he worked the whatever.
What the fuck, dude?
It is like, I had to pause it and back it up. And it's like, was that Doug Jones? Why is he here? They don't give him a lower third. They don't say who he is. I just know what he looks like.
That would be like finding out that Anthony Daniels did uncredited puppet work in Chopping Mall. It's like, well, Anthony Daniels really just likes androids. Like, he loves robots.
He's really good at robots.
That's so bizarre. So I mentioned earlier on in kind of the nuts and bolts conversation of this about how, it's thank God for Rogue Pictures. It's sad that Universal said that it was too gay or whatever. I read this headline today that it's not about Seed of Chucky necessarily, but this is, this is probably the most celebrative of kind of LGBTQIA plus and you know, kind of gay culture and the celebration of that. This is the most of that we will probably discuss on the show, period.
For a while at least. I'm racking my brain as to like what even comes close.
It's all very natural, and it's a part of the storytelling. But I read this article. Pixar's putting out like an animated TV show, like of their own volition. It's not based on anything else. It's they're writing it, and it's like vignettes of these different stories with these different characters, called Win or Lose.
Okay.
And they have made headlines, Pixar has, in what I consider to be a horrifically bad way. They have removed one of the stories where they mention that one of the characters within the story is transgender. That the characters, it's not the point of the story of the episode, but there was dialogue that one of the characters featured in the episodes was a transgender person, openly transgender.
Gotcha.
That has been removed, completely scrapped. Has been scrapped. And now they are making headlines, being so brave is the way that this is being framed. It's so brave that they have an openly Christian character that has taken the place of that in these episodes. That the phrase openly Christian in this nation bothers me so much. Again, you know what? I'm not going to fucking, normally I do the thing where I'm like, listen, we're not a Christian, you know, we're not a political show. We don't really do this, but I'm past that at this point. That's so fucking disappointing to me.
Yeah.
That is so annoying to me. It's a reminder. And for those of you out there who may not know, corporations, no matter how progressive you think they are, do not give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about any of this. It is all, none of it's art. It's all commerce. Hearing that, and I love Pixar Studios. I love them. And that has disappointed me.
Yeah, especially from them. It's one thing to come from like Disney proper, but from Pixar.
Even to take the pressure. It's like, to frame that as brave is like, we live in a country where, you know, even 10 years ago, it is just assumed that the characters on the shows that you're watching are, you know, I'm doing big hand quotes, openly Christian. That is, it's so bizarre to me to do that. And so it makes me worry about horror, because horror doesn't ever give a fuck. Horror, it is, you know, you've got the movies that are censored. Obviously, you've got like a lot of death off camera in the Friday the 13th franchise, but they're really like storied about having that issue. But it's like, the one thing that I don't really see happening are more stories like Seed of Chucky. Now, let me be clear. Seed of Chucky is absurd. It's a silly story. It has very little to do with the rest of the franchise. It's starting on new things because it's ridiculous and it's silly. But its message is a good one. And I worry that we're not going to see that shit anymore.
Yeah. I mean, with how Don Mancini has covered a lot of these topics in the Chucky series. I mean, I think here's something that I believe as a horror fan is that horror in and of itself, so much of it, horror films, monster flicks, going back as far as you possibly can, they are all inherently gay.
Sure.
Like, Frankenstein is about a scientist who builds a man and brings him to life. And then it's not until the sequel that he goes, oh, well, maybe I should make a woman.
Right.
Like, they are inherently gay. Also, those movies are directed by an openly gay man.
Right.
So, like, the subtext is just text at points.
Yeah.
But you can read so much into in the 50s, all of the I was a teenage werewolf sort of movies of like people going through changes, and you know, it's about teenagers, so it's literally about their bodies changing, but then it's also about not feeling comfortable in your own skin and finding your own thing and being like, oh, well, maybe I'm not quote unquote normal because maybe I'm a boy who likes boys. So what does that say about me? And so it's those sorts of things that, so I think horror has always been, and I think, and I'm not saying that every single horror film is a gay allegory. I'm saying that queerness has a home and always has had a home within horror.
I read this article and it made me think of something about what our show might be. I think about like Halloween Horror Nights, and I think about, you know, the celebration of Halloween, and specifically, you know, lately, and we've talked about this on the show before, the more humanity kind of moves forward, the more spooky stuff seems to be popular now.
Yeah.
Halloween is the biggest it's ever been, and the celebration of horror and spooky stuff is always going to be more relevant than the year it was before. But it made me think, how many people are well, don't make it political, or I just like horror, I don't care about your gay shit, or, you know, those really awful things. So I just want to address our audience generally, because we've made, you know, yes, I've said things about political people in the show and whatever. And
capitalism.
We've said pieces of this, but this is the one thing, and this episode I think is the perfect place to establish this. We're early on in our, this is the 18th episode of our show. It's early enough that we can still catch people off at the pass. If this to you is, you know, woke, or if this is too political for you, or if you don't like Seed of Chucky because it deals with transgenderism, or it deals with, you know, gender dysphoria or non-binary issues, if this is the one that you don't like because of those things, and you don't like the things that we have discussed as being okay or good, or, you know, you find out that Don Mancini is an openly gay person, so you start to discount Child's Play as DEI, or, you know,
whatever the term that you're going to use,
whatever
at this point
bullshit you're going to fucking throw up at us, get the fuck off our show. This isn't the show. You misclicked. You worm. You have misclicked. This is not the show. All of this, it's like watching the X-Men and being homophobic. You've missed the fucking point. We don't want you here. The people that like the show need to like the show because they like the content, and they're also decent fucking people. And as we move as a society in the country that we're recording this podcast in to a very difficult place to navigate waters with discussions like this, we don't need our discussions to be difficult. We are fine with this, with the moral lesson that this story teaches. If you're not, fuck off.
Why do you kill people?
Excuse me?
Why do you kill?
Well, it's a hobby, really. It helps us relax.
Am I going to be a killer?
Of course, it's been a family tradition for generations.
But violence is bad, isn't it? They said so on TV.
Not violence. Violins. Violins are bad. That screechy music's gonna ruin the goddamn country.
Chucky, Glinda's right. It's time we owned up to it. We have a problem with killing.
I don't have a problem with killing. I like a little killing now and then. What's wrong with that?
Killing is an addiction like any other drug. But we're parents now. We have to set a good example.
I love so much that the movie plays with, you know, gender identity, gender dysphoria. It plays around with the idea of a being born without any marked indication of gender.
Right.
What would they think? What would they be? What would their identity look like? And Don, I think, writes that as Glenn is a bit fractured, because it is, well, I am both and I am none, so I don't know. But I also love that they play around with, but is being a killer like an identity? Is that something you identify as? And for the record, for the listeners at home, if you haven't seen this movie and you're wondering what like the tunk noise is, it's the funniest shit ever. It is Chucky standing on the side of Glenn's crib.
Yeah, they've got him in like a crib.
Tiffany has put them in a crib, and Chucky has a fucking kitchen knife that he is just hitting the side of the crib with. That is such a good sequence.
But they're trying to be like comforting parents at the same time.
It's like, so I will talk to Luna, and I am a very fidgety person. The other day you made fun of me because I learned very recently how to do a bridge shuffle with regular playing cards. And so I will do it all day long. I will shuffle cards, not magic cards, because we do not fucking play magic.
Absolutely not.
Have you ever?
No.
Will you ever?
No, absolutely. No.
No, but later we should.
Yeah.
But the idea of him just fidgeting with a knife because he is so used to having one in his hand. I like a little killing. God, I love that sequence so much.
I think it really gets to the heart of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what I love. Because, I had watched this movie for the first time in 2023.
Yeah, with me.
And
This is a rare instance where I had seen not only this movie before you had, I had seen this one and Bride before you had, which is very rare for this show.
Yeah, we were trying to get caught up. Basically, you had asked me if I'd seen the Chucky series. And I was like, no, I haven't gotten around to it. It was in its first season at that point. And I was like, honestly, I haven't seen half of the Chucky Child's Play films.
And I had seen up to here. But there are things in the show that go past this.
Right.
And so I had asked you for context and I was amazed by the answer. Well, I haven't seen that shit. And I was like, well, now that's the next one we have to watch.
So then we sat through Bride and Seed.
We enjoyed these.
Yes.
Then we sat through the others.
The other two to get the context for the show, which I really enjoy.
I still haven't seen past the first season.
I've seen season 1 and 2.
All I know is that the one thing that Carly and I really took away from the first season is that Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona Dourif, has a really nice, big, fat booty.
That she does.
This movie starts with an insane intro sequence.
Yeah.
I remember this is a franchise where we've kind of noticed those a bit more than typical. I kind of made a point to talk about how I was impressed visually and how like narratively the opening sequence of 3 is. It's one of the stronger parts of that movie. And unfortunately, I will say the same thing here. Wow. Narratively, what a show. I'm going to very briefly describe
We get to
this.
see the wonders of life.
Yes, we get to see Chucky's sperm cells
His seed.
swim through the plastic doll tubes of Tiffany Ray. She goes by in this film.
Yeah.
Because I guess they tied the dot. But it is bizarre. We watch her eggs get inseminated, grow into a fetus, a fanged, horrific fetus, and we witness the miracle of life. Now, we witness the miracle of life in Bride.
Right.
At the very end.
So this is that moment. We're just seeing it from the inside.
Which makes me want to, that song, oh, you make me want to shout. This makes me want to puke. Claw my eyes out and then puke. It's very funny. It's funny. It's also very like, what is that show? It's like an old show and the people are blue and it's all computer generated, like computer animated, but it's very old.
Oh, Reboot?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very like Reboot
It's
kind of visuals.
Canadian animated. I think it's the first animated, like fully CGI animated television show.
Yes. And that's what it's kind of that sort of visual, like very rudimentary computer generated vibe.
Yeah.
Did his sperm cells look strange to you? And I hate the fact that I just fucking asked that.
Do you mean strange as like against normal sperm cells? Or do you
Yes.
mean just because the animation is a little wonky?
No, I mean, like, do you think they did something artistic with them? Because like a normal sperm cell is rounded. It's like a round little, like a tip of your pinky with a little tail. I hate our show now. I get it, guys. We'll see you later. I already scared off all the racists and homophobes, and now our regular fans are like, this guy's talking about cum a lot. I get it. Yeah, it was absolutely bizarre.
After that sequence, we get this beautiful little play of like paper getting torn away and looking up at this lovely family.
Yeah, I like those shots where they do the same with Child's Play 3 when he gets delivered.
Yeah.
And I like...
Because, I mean, we start this one with the doll POV.
Yeah.
And it's a long extended
Well,
sequence.
no, again, we start this with Nut.
Okay, right. After the credits, I should say.
Yeah.
It begins with a doll POV shot that
Yes.
runs for probably, I rough timed it. It's a little over 5 minutes, I think. There's a couple cuts. It's not an
Yeah.
actual oneer, but it's pretty close.
They kind of pull the rug a bit because I believed the first time I saw this movie, it's like, oh, good, we're back in the saddle. Here's Chucky.
Right.
Because it's doll POV and that's what we're used to. And then you get that kind of look in the mirror where Glenn sees himself. And I think for the sake of pronouns and gender labeling for this, it's makeup, dress, persona, Glenda, purple clothing, and nothing else extravagant. Glenn, because that is how the characters referred to them in the film. But you get that reveal of the flash of light and he sees himself in the mirror and it's horrific. One thing I will say is that at the end of Bride, when he is born,
Right.
he's got shark teeth, like fangs, like jagged little teeth.
Yeah, he's got little Nosferatu teeth.
They kept that.
Yeah.
They did not need to do that.
No, but they did. They held on to it for whatever reason.
It is my favorite thing of this franchise is its continuity.
Yes.
And
yes.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Because I mean, some of it is like, oh yeah, that's great that we've carried that over, and others it was just like, who was paying attention to that? You could have changed anything, man.
You made a doll fetus come out of Tiffany. Nobody was fucking paying attention to the fact that it had shark teeth. Or it could have just been an artistic expression about how that's how doll fetuses' teeth are.
Or those were its baby teeth, and those have now fallen out. It's gotten its adult doll teeth.
Don't you hate that that's kind of cute? Like thinking about Glenda's like little baby teeth.
No, because then that makes me think of baby skulls. Have you ever seen a baby skull?
Have you seen those pictures of that very horrific, like conjoined infant skull?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, I don't like all their teeth.
No. One thing I will say, knowing Carly as long as I have, she has kind of changed my way of thinking. And we talk about this in Cabin in the Woods, but I think things that shouldn't be cute are cute.
Oh, okay.
Chucky's cute. Tiffany's cute. They're all cute. Yeah. Cute little babies. But Glenn is extraordinarily cute in this. And I think that's what makes the movie work.
Yeah, their personality is so just something special there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the vocal performance.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I guess we do lead off with Glenn,
who's
going by a different name at this point.
Yes. Which reminds me of Steve Martin's The Jerk. There's a scene where this dog, he's like, I'm going to name this dog Hero. And one of the neighbors of this apartment building is like, you should name your dog Shithead. He's like, all right. And he names the dog Shithead and it's great.
We catch up with, after this extended dream sequence, because it's revealed to be a dream sequence, this whole murder.
Which has that great follow shot of the father in the dream getting killed and they fall from the landing down onto the floor and it's all like very claustrophobic to the face.
Yeah.
I love that shot.
Yeah, no, it's that whole sequence is shot incredibly. It's all steady cam. Like I said,
smooth.
it's mostly a oneer. There's a couple cuts in there, but you get some great kills. You get your first official nudity for the Child's Play and Chucky franchise.
Well, you don't count doll nudity?
No.
That's probably a smart move. Human nudity.
Human nudity. Because, I guess you do see Tiffany's butt in Bride of Chucky.
Unfortunately.
But, you see nudity. I think it's the only film in the franchise that has nudity, if I'm not mistaken. But then, a couple great kills. And Glenn looks down and is peeing himself.
Which is a thing you would think would just be the once, but it's not.
Nope. Several times throughout this film. And that's when it's revealed that it is, in fact, a dream sequence. And we are instead at the International Ventriloquist Competition in Glastonbury, England.
There is zero reason for this to be here.
Yep.
Zero at all.
Yep.
We get a weird over-the-top performance by some Scottish guy who's like the David Blaine.
Yeah.
Like,
Chris,
not David Blaine. Chris Angel is what I'm thinking of.
I got what you meant. He goes by Sykes.
Yes.
And he is played by Keith Lee Castle, and he's an English actor. He's done a bunch of stuff. Wind in the Willows. He was in the EastEnders. I didn't see Doctor Who anywhere on his thing. It is surprising. He was in a movie called Vampire Diary, not to be confused by the series Vampire Diaries.
Right.
Not the same thing. He was in a horror film called Doghouse, and then he was in like a English, British, what have you, young, like a kid horror show called Young Dracula.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Not to be confused with The Littlest Vampire with Jonathan Lipnicki.
Absolutely not.
Now, what I will say is that this whole sequence is bizarre.
Yeah.
But it sets it's like your canapes. It's like hey, this is what you need to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense? No. Should this be happening? Definitely not. Is it funny as fuck? Yes. This like punk rock musician looking guy is he's
like grifting
yeah,
this audience that he's the best ventriloquist ever.
just because he keeps talking to Glenn and Glenn responds. Now Glenn responds in a sweet and innocent English voice because Glenn is voiced by Billy Boyd.
Billy Boyd, if you listeners didn't know.
Yeah, Billy Boyd's Pippin from
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. He was also in Urban Ghost Story. He was in Master and Commander. He was in a film called Dorothy and the Witches of Oz. And he reprises his role as the inner monologue of Glenn and Glenda in season 2 of Chucky.
Oh no. Something I was worried about happening this whole time in the Child's Play franchise finally happened.
Which is?
Something I actually would have cared about getting spoiled. Got spoiled
I'm
for
sorry.
me. We have to talk about the movie. I should have expected this, but I did not know that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so great.
The second season it's the most meta thing ever.
I love we mentioned in an episode of Cold Open was about Lord of the Rings a little while ago. Love Lord of the Rings. I love hobbits. I think hobbits are great. And Merry and Pippin are obviously, they're goated. They're the best hobbits in the world. So the fact that the very first time I watched this movie, I didn't put it together. Watching it with you within minutes, I was like, is this fucking Pippin? What the fuck is this? And so, obviously the third, fourth rewatch of this last week, it is just bizarre.
Yep. Of why was he chosen? I don't know, but
like that's why they're in England, is to justify why he has this silly voice. But their conversation, the ventriloquist is like, you're just a big old, you don't know anything. And he's like, why would I know anything? I'm just a little puppet. And they have this back and forth. And the crowd is like, fuck yeah.
they're eating it up. They love it.
Well, they're drunk.
I don't know what that's like. The main piece of information you get there from Sykes is that this takes place now 6 years from the end of Bride of Chucky.
In the most over-the-top English accent, he's like, 6 years ago, I was in the States and I found this thing sitting in a graveyard. And it's like, why
that is not far off.
No, it's like, why the fuck were you there? It doesn't matter, but what the fuck is this?
Now, what's funny is this whole thing in the original script. Don Mancini, he had wanted the beginning to have Glenn having a dream, which he did, but it was going to have Chucky killing off Jesse and Jade from the end of Bride of Chucky, and then Jennifer Tilly was also written to be much more unlikable in that version, cynical to the other characters, and then Tyler and Andy would have appeared as cameos to be killed off in this film. And then Mancini had also based Glenn's look and personality off of like Edward Scissorhands from the Tim Burton film.
I guess that's important to point out. What do you think of the Glenn design?
Okay, what I find, you mean just physically?
Like facially?
So I find it funny that like Glenn has features from both of his parents. Like you see them.
Yeah.
He has Chucky's blue eyes,
his freckles,
his red hair.
Yeah.
But then he has more of Tiffany's kind of like pointed chin. Her, the face is a bit squashed, to not have a better term.
But they're dolls.
Right. They're dolls.
Yeah.
And it's his skin is like almost a greenish hue.
It's like ghastly.
Yeah.
He looks like an undead shark. It is so, because he keeps the sharp pointed teeth, and all of it together, it leads to, and I mentioned in Bride that everybody who sees Chucky goes, ugh. Everyone that sees Glenn and Glenda in this movie are horrified by their hideous visage.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God. Even in the dream sequence, the kid is like, ew.
Yeah, immediately. There's no like, oh, look at this cute doll. No, none of that.
He's just a sweetheart.
Yeah,
He
he has
pees his
the
pants.
over and over again. The other important piece of information we get from this scene is that Glenn is Japanese.
That is the funniest joke. You and I were watching it and we're laughing, holding our sides, laughing so fucking hard because of the audio sting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bamboo flute.
Yeah, just the most stereotypical, like off-color
amazing.
joke. But it's the fact that it happens every time. So Glenn, and everyone who's watched the movie, you know this, but like on his left wrist, he has a made in Japan stamp.
The funniest thing to me, and we'll get here, he sees an interview. Actually, I believe this is the next sequence.
Yeah.
He sees an interview about the film Chucky Goes Psycho, which is the fake film within a film. But at one point, the camera of the footage that he's seeing shows Chucky's wrist, and it says "Made in Japan." So he realizes that Chucky and Tiffany must be his parents. But the funniest thing is that when you see Chucky's, it's like black text, like it is molded and then written into "Made in Japan." Glenn's is like red. It's like a birthmark. It's like fleshy.
Yeah.
It is so funny.
And now you might be questioning, PJ, how is it that Chucky is made in Japan? Because we know that he was manufactured in the Play Pals factory in Chicago.
Well, so two things. Pin in Chicago, because we have to have a talk about that. But number two, I don't, because I also watched this movie very recently and realized that these puppets are puppets created for a movie.
Yes.
And they were made in Japan, assuming.
The other thing is that whenever Tiffany puts, or not when Tiffany puts, it gets confusing because Jennifer Tilly plays herself in this movie.
It does. Yeah, that needs to be pointed out immediately, is that an actual character in the film played by Jennifer Tilly is Jennifer Tilly, who brings up things like her Oscar nomination for Bound and like discusses her career. So like it is not, it's not a facsimile to Jennifer Tilly. It is actually her.
Right. Quick, because it's going to drive me insane, and any other like film fans out there, it's going to drive them insane. Her Oscar nomination was actually for Bullets Over Broadway, but she does talk about Bound. Anyway, all of that to say, at the beginning of Bride of Chucky, whenever she puts Chucky back together, like she has most of him, but then you see her like taking other doll parts and stuff. And so I think his left arm that has the Made in Japan isn't his original arm.
That is fucking insane.
And so then genetically he passed on
the trait from the voodoo that, oh my God.
Okay. So yeah, our next scene, we don't know it at the time, but we are on a movie set. It is snowy. Yeah. There is a Santa.
We follow sad Santa.
You want to know who that Santa is?
Because
this is bizarre.
Him.
This is really bizarre. Jason Fleming is his name. He was in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Okay.
He was in a movie called Deep Rising.
Okay.
He's eventually in Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Okay.
But where you know him from, I believe he's in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
He's fucking Dr. Jekyll.
Yes,
Get the fuck out of here. Oh my God. I want to stop recording for a second and take a fucking lap around our house. Oh my God. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But like you see it as soon as you know it. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Just a weird thing. He has a long filmography list. I don't know why he is doing it.
It has to be an inclusion of like, I love this movie. Just put me in somewhere. That's fucking crazy. He gets, he's on the phone as Santa, Dr. Jekyll Santa is on the phone talking about, you're breaking up with me on Christmas Eve. Because it's so funny. He's like, no, you're not breaking up. No, I just said you're not breaking up. Oh, you're breaking up with me. And I was like, that's a terrible joke, but it's a terrible joke on purpose. But then the dolls kill him.
Yeah, Chucky and Tiffany show up and they kill him, only to then reveal that they are animatronics.
Because Chucky's like stabbing over and over and saying the same line over and over. He's glitched out.
And that is that and another. So in a second Tony Gardner comes out playing himself.
Yes.
And he is like, oh, the Tiffany's, right arm is messed up again. It's loose or whatever. And then she like grabs him by the nuts. That is a reference to apparently in the filming of Bride of Chucky, one of the Chucky dolls, his arm, like his right arm, would just move on its own sometimes. And it was always like grabbing Jennifer Tilly's breasts.
Hilarious.
So they like make jokes about that in this movie.
So you know how like the meme goes around that there is a film where Selma Hayek pours tequila down her very attractive body, and it is then drank off of her foot by Quentin Tarantino, and Quentin Tarantino put himself in that role.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Right. So do you think it's the same thing where Tony Gardner put himself in a position in this film where Tiffany the doll would grab his testicles because that's a kink of his?
Wow. I think
Yeah.
you're getting to the bottom of something here.
Yeah. Also, did you know that the guy who plays Santa was Dr. Jekyll from the fucking LXG movie? I wish Alistair was here, dude.
Yeah.
He would shit his pants.
So there's certain notes that I take sometimes in my research on these movies where I'm like, who'd get a kick out of that? Alistair.
Or if it has anything to do with like From or Lost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Jack Bender stuff. That was all for Carly.
Yep.
And just because we needed to talk about it.
She's on a bender for Jack Bender. I'm going to cut that joke out. Don't worry about it.
They are again on the movie set for Chucky Goes Psycho.
Yes.
Which there's been a couple Psycho references already in this. When Glenn is talking about like he would never hurt a fly, and then there's a fly on his hand, it flies away.
He's like, oh, look, there it goes.
That's something that they say at the end of Psycho. You also get the shower kill scene, very similar there. Anyway.
But what this also introduces is Jennifer Tilly is a human being. They're on the set voicing Tiffany the doll. She is having a crisis in her career. She's even like, I got nominated for an Oscar, and now I'm here playing pretend with a stupid fucking puppet.
Right.
And it's just like
what has happened in my career?
I was like, don't say that because you're amazing. But also, yeah, that's accurate to what's happening to you right now.
Yeah, there is like certain jokes in there where, I mean, she had to be fine with it. She had to be in on all the jokes because she's there and she's saying the lines.
She's always, the one thing I will say about Jennifer Tilly is that she has always worked. There's always something that she's doing. Even if it's just like she's Bonnie and Family Guy or something, she's always working. Her voice she is just so iconic. Her picking fun at herself in a movie where she plays two roles in a franchise that she fucking loves. It's like, that's endearing. I like that.
Yeah. Plays two roles, gets 2 credits. Like she is credited twice at the end. It's amazing. We're also introduced to her agent. No, not even her agent. Her assistant.
Like a personal assistant.
Joan, who's played by Hannah Spirit. She is an original member of the pop group. I think they're a UK-based pop group called S Club or S Club 7.
Which is another fun fact that is just fucking crazy.
Yeah. That's a name. Like I've never listened to their music, but I remember them being like a thing for a while growing up, and they had all these different like TV shows. So she was in like Miami 7, LA 7, Hollywood 7. They're all like S Club 7 shows, but she's also in Agent Cody Banks 2.
What the fuck?
So,
she's the Hillary Duff of that?
And that's because Hillary Duff I think is in that movie, but but that one I think takes place in England. So
foggy old London town.
She's there.
Jennifer Tilly's performance in this is immediately funny. She is dieting, but is trying to sneak a candy bar without being seen. And then when she's almost caught, she slides it into Chucky's coveralls.
Yeah. She gives these lines of dialogue about how like she'd gone out for Aaron Brockovich and she lost that out to Julia Roberts, so she hates Julia Roberts,
which is a recurring theme.
Yeah, and she says that she believes she only got that role because she slept with the director,
right? Which
then becomes the plot point for the rest of the movie.
Yes, but this sort of footage that we're seeing is then immediately it ties into the interview being kind of shown of a journalist sitting with the Chucky and Tiffany doll, and they're talking,
which is an interesting theme that they carry over strangely into the special features on like the DVD and Blu-ray. is whenever they are doing interviews with the rest of the cast, they also have interviews with Chucky and Tiffany and Glenn as if they were people.
That's so funny. What do you mean if? Well, no,
on.
but realistically, at this point, Brad Dourif has played Chucky for so long that like it's kind of a person. It has his own answers to questions and is just so deplorable.
Yeah.
But that footage makes Glenn's out.
Yeah.
He's sick of being a fake ventriloquist puppet.
Right. We get this amazing running sequence where he hops into the back of a truck.
Like a garbage truck. You sent that GIF, and it's so funny because you sent that GIF in response to something to, I believe, Ty and I.
Yeah.
But you send it, and then we're watching it that night, and you're like, oh my God, this is where this was. I could not remember where this clip came from.
I knew it was Glenn, but I was like, I don't know what he's running from. I have no idea.
It's like Kermit on the bike.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Then we have an odd Indiana Jones style travel shot of an airplane flying superimposed over a map from the UK to Hollywood.
It is truly the thing of, in any other context, I think I would be bothered by that. Like, this isn't that kind of movie. This doesn't make any sense. This isn't a kind of a movie. This just, it doesn't, you can't define it. It is so ludicrous that, well, no, it's not ludicrous. It's Redman.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Redman is a rapper turned movie director.
Yeah.
And
not in real life, but in this movie.
But he has acted. He mostly plays himself in things or versions of himself.
Just like Busta Rhymes.
Yeah. He was in How High. He was in Scary Movie 3. He and Method, so Method and Red, that was their show for a while. And then he also appeared in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which was in the last few years.
His performance in this is good.
Yes. He's a movie director who is making a biblical epic
centered around the Virgin Mary.
And so Jennifer Tilly is going out for that role.
Because she thinks she needs to reinvent herself because she's slutty in the public eye.
Now, it's funny you mentioned Quentin Tarantino before because Quentin Tarantino and Joey Pants himself were both considered for the role that later went to Redman. So it was actually written with Quentin Tarantino as the movie director in mind, and then he either turned it down or it didn't work out or whatever.
If he turned it down, he's a bastard, man.
Yeah.
That
maybe he was busy with something. He was
Jennifer
actually
Tilly
so
has
2000
feet.
2000 and
she could have dirtied up her feet for him.
For he is working on Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yeah, so who
Probably
cares?
around there.
What are he and David Carradine doing? Just hanging around?
Wow. That was good. Julia Roberts is revealed to be the first choice. So Jennifer, after going on this audition, this read with Redman for the role,
which is just look at my cleavage. I'm going to sluttily baby doll voice read these lines.
But learning that he was going to choose Julia Roberts and she was going to lose out on this role to her again
has made her so angry that she's decided I'm going to fuck this man so that he'll cast me in this movie. So she's like, come to my place tonight.
Yes. So then we're revealed that much like Chucky mailed himself to the military academy in Child's Play 3, Glenn has mailed himself to this Hollywood set for this movie where he wakes up in Tony Gardner's
which makes me so mad.
Why?
I don't know. Why? Why is that where he gets delivered?
It doesn't make any sense.
First of all, how would he know the address to the film studio from the back of a garbage truck? But even assuming all of that is just fine, why would somebody just set the box down in the middle of a fucking makeup prop shop?
It doesn't make any sense.
Like, to the point where he opens the box and he looks up and there is an animatronic of Frankenstein's monster. And it's like, so you just threw him right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That'd be like sending a
maybe. Well, okay. Maybe there was a marking on the box or they knew that it was a doll of some kind.
Maybe. What I would say is that sounds like you're sending equipment to a hospital. So you throw it in the middle of a surgery room.
Yeah.
A surgery room. Fuck it. Yeah. That's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah. That's where the surgery happens.
Yes. I have had 2 surgeries and both of them took place in a room. So I'm not wrong. Go and fuck yourself.
Glenn has the Heart of Damballa amulet,
which is so And now we have found, after that amulet wasn't a thing and then was, it now has text on the back of it that says, Awe, it's like, Awe Due Dembala awake.
Well, I think he just says awake. But why does he know that a spell? So, okay. So he wakes up. He's in the middle of his room. He's surrounded by like
Terrified
other props
of
and
monsters,
things.
yeah.
And then he sees Chucky and Tiffany.
They're like under a tarp.
Yeah, just laid out. And he tries to wake them up. He's very excited because he thinks that these are his parents.
And again, sincerely, that's so fucking cute.
It is the sweet. This is okay. Watching this movie, I think I was going to make this point earlier and we got sidetracked. Watching this movie this week has been like, it's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination. But that performance, I kind of love it.
Well, it's just the thing is it's just a performance movie. The plot is nonsense.
Right.
It is like the worst B-movie plot you've ever heard. Cinematography and the direction, like the art direction, whatever, none of that's great. If I'm being honest, because we always talk about how amazing the puppeteering is in these movies. And like Bride of Chucky, their lips form words.
Yeah.
Bride of Chucky is the mountaintop. It is perfect. This is a big way down. The puppets look good.
Puppets look great.
But they don't move that way. You lose a lot of that kind of articulation, that realism. They're very clunky to me. It's a huge departure.
Yeah.
And
some of their movements just look odd. It's the thing. Okay. So if the lips were the thing that really was amazing to watch in like Bride of Chucky, to me in this one, it's the eyes.
Sure.
I think that they sell a lot of performance from those dolls with the eyes.
They sell a lot of performance, but I think it's almost a necessity because you can't sell it any other way.
Right.
And I think that's what you see when you watch that budget get slashed by half is the puppets aren't as good. They can look better because crafts have become, people that make the craft have gotten better over time. So you can make it look better, but it's not going to act better. So it's a trade-off and it's fine. But it is a performance movie. And it's a performance movie with everybody. It's Redman, Jennifer Tilly's performances as kind of your human main characters are wonderful. They're both so fucking funny. Redman sitting and eating like cauliflower, like, and just trying to like riz her up. That's a word that Luna taught me. Trying to like, she teaches me cool young kid words. Like, of course, skibbity and toilet. But
You ever hit the gritty in front of her?
Yeah, she thought that was so lame. So with Redman and Tiffany, they're your human faces. They're your big performances. And then you've got, obviously, your three dolls. But then you have, like, John Waters is in this fucking movie. And he's so great. And, like, even the kid who plays, like, the cab driver, it's all of these performances are so over the top and so good that you don't fucking give a shit about the plot. That doesn't matter. But no, that is the only saving grace of this movie is that you love the characters that you already know. And the one character that you don't know, Billy Boyd just makes it just so endearing and charming and sweet because he is. And so he gets the fucking amulet and he reads the back of it. And somehow these dolls that are once again completely unrelated awaken to the continued consciousness of the rays into these new bodies. And they like look around and Chucky's like, Tiff? And she's like, oh my God, where are we? And then they see him and Chucky's like, oh my God. Like, he's like, this kid fell down the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. And Tiffany's like stifling laughter, like, shut up, that's not funny.
Right.
But
we can't pick on this kid we don't know.
But then they see the Made in Japan thing. And she puts together, because Chucky's like, if I were his parents, I'd be running away as fast as I could and just grilling him. But then she recognizes the Made in Japan thing and goes, oh my God, Chucky, we're parents. And then the fucking like kind of Oriental music sting happens again.
Yeah, it's that it happens back to back. Like it's barely trailed off the first time and it happens.
It's like a soundboard.
Time. Yeah.
And then Glenn speaks Japanese to them.
Right.
And Chucky's like, what the fuck is happening? And it's so funny. Then who walks in?
Tony Gardner.
To his own prop shop.
They go, quote unquote, Barbie mode.
Yes, which
I
liked. And they like click into place and Glenn looks and like, what the fuck is happening?
So he just like hides. But Tony comes in
leads to a non-dream sequence, leads to the first kill of the movie, which is a creative one.
Yes. And I will also say this moment is kind of harrowing in a weird way. And I think a lot, like I said, it's a lot of the eye performance with these dolls. He picks up Tiffany because she's having her issues. And so he's going to fix her. And so he unplugs her and lays her up on the table. And you get this shot, like this extreme close up on Tiffany's face as he like undresses her like from behind, and he starts like unscrewing the back panel on her because he's got to fix something inside. But it's the look in her eyes, like of being violated. It's
like rage.
Yeah.
She's like furious.
And
then another thing, which is so fucking gross, is you pull that panel where there should be batteries, and it's like her fucking spine meat. Like it's like musculature over the spinal column, and it's so weird.
Yeah. Because like, so in the Child's Play films, it was like the longer Chucky was in the body, he became more human. This is like,
now it's
they just are.
Well, you fucking jump the shark. Now they can have fucking children.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't.
Yeah. Her head spins around.
Which should kill her.
Much.
I just realized that. They just showed you she's got vertebrae.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Nope, spins around, much like Chucky's did whenever he revealed himself to Damien in Bride of Chucky.
Yes.
Also just, an Exorcist reference, I guess.
Out in the open.
And she has some pun. I don't even remember what it is now. And that's when Chucky, who's been sneaking around in the background, he's pulled this cable out of like the giant cable that plugs into their back. Yeah. He's pulled this like little cord out, and he throws it, and it whips around Tony's.
Like Indiana Jones is it.
And she grabs the other end.
And they both yank it down, and his head goes flying. It's an okay effect.
I think the head is really good.
Well, the head looks CG.
Well, when it's flying, yeah, I think it's partially CG.
Because like his eyes flutter, and like there's a bit of mouth motion. It looks a bit CG, like superimposed.
Once it hits the ground, and once Tiffany's picking it up, or not Tiffany, once Jennifer's picking it up.
I know. So confusing. Because yes, his head is removed by the wire. First kill of the movie. And then Jennifer Tilly walks in to finish eating her candy bar. And
she sees the corpse on the ground, but pays no mind to it because there's all this blood, but they're in the middle of a prop shop.
You're in the middle of a prop shop dedicated to a horror studio. So it's like, yeah, you see this shit all the time. She slips in the blood a little bit. And it's fucking, this is the moment that makes this movie something special for me, for Jennifer Tilly.
Right.
Is Tiffany looks up and goes, Jennifer Tilly. And it's just like amazed, like starstruck. And it's like, oh my fucking God, what is this?
Moments before Jennifer Tilly actually comes in is where we get, they've just committed murder.
So
the
naturally,
blood splatters on both Chucky and Tiffany's face.
Yes.
And this incredible love theme plays.
Which I looked at you and said, how the fuck are they getting away with this? Because it's just the love theme from Star Wars.
Yeah, from Empire.
I would play it now to show you, audience, but it is so similar that I'm worried that we would get in trouble.
But yeah, I had the same thought. It was just like, it's real close.
Love theme plays, they
make out.
And naturally, Glenn pisses himself.
Frightened, very much by just witnessing a murder.
Yeah.
By the hands of his parents,
whom he has just met. And his father, by the way, is a disgusting little latchkey doll that has been sewn together and whose eye is like sunken into a puddle of meat. Like bizarre looking creature.
They go back and forth on whether or not Glenn is a boy or a girl, and whether he should be named Glenn or if she should be named Glenda. And even going so far as to lay them down and pull their pants down, revealing very much like a Ken doll, there's nothing going on down there.
Which begs the question, how do they keep hissing themselves?
Okay, yeah.
Is it like a porous situation? Does it just come out like a sponge a bit?
Maybe.
It's probably foam latex. That would make sense.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
I wish I had. We'll cut all this and just pretend that I hadn't.
But the things that I love is like this scene is them, going back and forth on, oh, well, clearly it's a boy. Well, no, clearly it's a girl. And like, but they're never, They're never dismissive. It's like Chucky they're happy to be parents.
Chucky's not like, well, clearly it's a boy because like Glenn's a boy because he's not weak like some girl, or it's like he's not dumb like some boy. Chucky wants a boy, Tiffany wants a little girl, and Glenn's like, I mean, I guess somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It's not derisive. It's not mean.
No. And that's what I mean is like, they're both like all the way through this movie, they continue to be like supportive and just like, well, I want you to be this, like, this is what I would love. And this is what I would love. And then eventually we get to, well, what does Glenn want? What does Glenda want?
Right. And then there's a big weird moment.
Yeah. Which we will get to, but Chucky gives this amazing little comedy beat where like they pull his pants down and it's like, well, and Tiffany's just like, well, see, clearly it's a girl. Chucky's like, well, no, that's my boy. He just hasn't hit his growth spurt yet.
His growth spurt coming from a 3-foot doll. So I love it so much.
I think it's ridiculous. Then Tilly comes in.
Yes.
And
after the death of Tony Gardner, eventually after picking up his head, Jennifer Tilly realizes that this is in fact a real murder and needs to leave. So we're introduced to 2 plot points here. The first plot point is Chucky, Tiffany take Glenda with them to their Jennifer's limo driver. Basically, they are escaping the studio with Jennifer Tilly because the idea is Tiffany, I'm going to put my soul into Jennifer Tilly and we will find Chucky a body. And then we will make Jennifer Tilly pregnant. And that's where we will put the soul of our child.
Right. It's a great plot.
It's a simple plot. We also discover that the limo driver is a young man who has kind of fooled around with and been mildly amorous with Tiffany. I'm going to do this a million more times. Has fooled around with and been amorous with Jennifer Tilly.
Right.
But they have all now gotten into the back of this limousine.
Yes. So those 2 plot points, you're also introduced to those two characters here. So Stan is the limo driver.
Yes.
Stan is played by Steve West. Doesn't have a lot of credits.
Doesn't seem like he would.
But the one that you will be interested in is he was apparently the voice of Grayson / Sir Galahad in The Order 1886.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's a good game. That's surprising.
Another fact I wrote for Alistair.
We'll email all of these to him.
Yeah, I know he loves that game.
Yeah.
And then we're also introduced to, in the swarm of paparazzi that chase Jennifer Tilly out of the studio, is Peter Peters, or Pete Peters rather.
Pete Peters is a good name for a creep.
Yep.
Well, and that creep is John fucking Waters.
John Waters. John Waters, for anyone who doesn't know, is an American filmmaker, actor, writer, artist. He rose to fame in the early 1970s with his transgressive cult films.
More radio voice.
Including Multiple Maniacs, Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, Desperate Living, and his more Hollywood fare of Hairspray, Cry Baby, starring Johnny Depp, and Serial Mom, who starred, I think, the kid who played, is it Justin Whalen, who played Andy in Child's Play 3, if I'm not mistaken. He was in Serial Mom.
Interesting.
Anyway,
I know John Waters. The film I know of his that I've actually sat down and seen is Pink Flamingos.
Oh yeah,
that was a movie night at a kind of an indie theater a long time ago. I haven't seen anything else of his, but I also know John Waters from the Lonely Island song Creep, and he's in the music video, and he's amazing in that.
Yes, he is. He plays a paparazzi in this, and he has a couple big scenes here later. Like you said, the dolls sneak into the limo. They are riding with Stan and Jennifer Tilly, and they're going to her home. We get this, and this is, I think, a point that you wanted to get on, is Glenn keeps putting out there of like, well, we're Japanese, obviously. What were you guys, Yakuza or
samurai?
Like samurai?
Yeah.
Like, are you guys, like, what are you?
Why would you kill?
Yeah.
Right.
And Chucky is like, well, no, we're not Japanese. We're not from Japan. We're from Jersey.
And that pisses me off so fucking bad because it is established immediately that within this franchise, to my knowledge, that they are Chicago based.
I mean, the first two movies, I believe, take place in Chicago.
Which, like, he is the fucking strangler. Like, the whole point is that he's like a local serial killer.
Right.
So I don't know why it's Jersey now.
That's where he was buried. That's where he was from.
That's so strange.
It is, but I don't know. It's a little piece of,
it loses a bit of integrity for me, if I'm being honest.
Oh, I get it. I know you want integrity from your
Chicago-based doll movie.
Yeah. So Joan, who is Tilly's assistant again, she's watching a news report of the scene. So this is where another pet peeve of mine comes out. Yeah. So this one does what they did in Scream 4, where Jennifer Tilly tells Joan, "Hey, turn on the news." And so Joan flips on the TV, and it is already on the channel, on the correct, like it's on the news report, on the story, on the exact shot that she's talking about of Jennifer Tilly walking out. There's a bunch of paparazzi all around her. Now, the second pet peeve on top of that is something that happens in this, where footage that's then used in that TV report, that news report, is footage that we just saw from Jennifer Tilly's point of view.
Like, she's looking up and seeing the body get carried away.
Right.
And so it is shot, assumedly from her perspective, her vision.
In the original scene. And then the next scene on the television in this news report
is that exact same shot.
And I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate whenever, like, anytime there's a news report or we're showing footage, even in like Marvel movies, if you're showing me footage of, the Hulk smashing through a city, but you're showing me that in like the Avengers film that followed. And they're like, well, look at what he did to Harlem or wherever it was in The Incredible Hulk. I can't remember. It's just something that really annoys me with movies. And I understand that, yes, it would cost more money to shoot new footage for that stuff.
But not a lot.
But it bothers me.
Yeah.
It bothers me in the same way of like poorly photoshopped family photos of people where it's like, you had all three actors, just go shoot a picture and put it in a frame.
Right.
Anyway, carrying on. That night is where we get to our clip. They're tucking Glenn into bed.
Hidden in the attic.
Yes, they're in the attic of Jennifer Tilly's home.
Palatial estate.
Right. And Glenn asks the question of, why do we kill?
And the answer is so just natural because they're both taken aback. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, why do we do this? Chucky gives it two reasons. Chucky's like, well, I like doing it. And it relieves stress for me. I like doing it. And then also generations, it's like a generational thing. Like, we've always done
it.
This.
It runs in our family. It's just what we do. It's like, is this a family business? It begs all sorts of questions.
Well, something I like about the franchise in general is that they're pretty good about answering questions like that, but then sometimes they just don't. And that doesn't bother me at all.
There's a couple times in this where we get little bits of information like that. About their relationship, they being Chucky and Tiffany prior to this.
Yeah.
And like, it really makes me want to go and dig through the series again because they go more into that in the Chucky series. And so I want to see how much of that they actually carry over.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'll remember to talk about them later. Chucky mentions that Tiffany has a sister.
Yes.
And because when they're in the limo, they're talking about their plan that you explained. And Tiffany is saying, I am not going to have I'm never going to have another baby. And that's what my mother said is, one is whatever. And the second one is whatever. And Chucky's like, oh, well, that explains your sister. And it's like, okay, so Tiffany has a sister
right.
that Charles Lee Ray is aware of.
Knows well enough to have an opinion of.
Right.
And he's a serial killer.
Yes. And then way later in the movie.
Oh, right. Tiffany has like this character trait where she always frames things, moral lessons, as my mother always used to say. And then Chucky's like, I killed her. And
like
why
20 years ago.
Why do I keep, and I think he's like, why do I keep having to listen to that bitch? I killed her 20 years ago. And it's like, you did?
Yeah. And that is the really bizarre one.
And she's fine with that? It's so strange.
So yeah, I need to go back and rewatch the series and make sure that I'm not just like blanking on something that's brought up in there or something. Anyway, they discuss why they kill, and Tiffany basically is like, "Look, we got this kid now. We need to give up. We need to give up killing." Now, I will use a personal example because you've talked a lot about your family in this show. I don't feel like I bring up my family all that often. When my parents first got together, they I don't think they originally planned to have kids. That wasn't like a thing that they necessarily wanted to do. And eventually they changed their mind. And but my dad used to smoke cigarettes. And apparently as soon as he found out that my mom was pregnant, he was like, never again. Cold turkey, stop smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want, to raise a kid in that environment. And so as far as I'm aware, he's never picked up a cigarette again. So in much the same way,
Tiffany is like, we need to stop. And she uses the phrase cold turkey. She's like right after the clip that we played ended, she's like, Chucky, that's what we got to do. Let's quit cold turkey. And he's like, I don't want to do that. Fuck you. I like doing this. It's nice.
And so they keep back and forth for a while, and he agrees, but he's got his fingers crossed behind his back.
Which is so cute. His little fingers. He's so evil. He's all covered in scars. He's sitting there with the knife tunking on the fucking like, chung, chung. He's so pissed. A little chunky.
Joan is trying to talk Jennifer Tilly out of
banging Redman for a part.
Right.
Especially because she's like, do you not see the irony?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so like, oh, Jennifer Tilly, you're going to fuck this man for the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. I think that's worth it. And so through that argument that Jennifer Tilly and Joan are having, Tilly fires Joan, which I believe on this last rewatch is a setup for a payoff later.
Yes. The other thing that we have is turns out somebody else went to Jennifer Tilly's house.
Mm-hmm.
It's Pete Peterson, John Waters.
Yeah, Pete Peters.
He's outside creeping, as he does, in the bushes.
I think he sneaks in when Redman's limo pulls up.
Yeah.
And he gets in through the gate there.
Mm-hmm. So, like, Redman and Jennifer Tilly are having... God, this movie's fucking insane. Just describing it is so fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
But they're having dinner, and...
well, first they're just having drinks. They're on the couch.
Yes, and then it gets to a point where Jennifer Tilly has successfully seduced him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is going back and forth from, like... They're doing, like, weird movie kisses... And then he's just shoving his face in her titties. Like, her Jennifer titties. Like over and over again.
Wow.
That's not my joke. That's Carly's joke.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I promised her I would give her credit because that's such a good joke.
You got to work that in somewhere.
Yeah.
So Tiffany and Chucky are working on this plan
to get Jennifer Tilly pregnant because they now need a baby because they have a child that they need to put the soul of into a human.
Right. And Chucky is eventually going to be in the body of Redman.
Yeah. There's a line here that I don't understand. So basically the idea that they come up with, and I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
I guess trigger warning for mild sexual assault. It is kind of cartoonish, but just in case.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that they have is that Chucky is going to go into the restroom and he's going to masturbate his doll penis.
Mm-hmm.
And he is going to ejaculate into a turkey baster.
As one does.
That they are then going to artificially inseminate Jennifer Tilly with.
Right.
As far as I'm aware, that would not work. But that is the least important detail of all of this.
Right.
So while Redman and Jennifer Tilly are downstairs on the couch, kind of necking each other.
And Tiffany is trying to find ways to knock them out.
Yes. Chucky is upstairs jacking off.
Mm-hmm.
And he says this line. He's like going through these magazines. And one of the magazine covers is Kelly Clarkson is what the name it says in the magazine. He's like, nah, I already did her. And it's like, is that saying that Chucky has jacked off to Kelly Clarkson in the past?
I guess. But in the okay. But in the timeline of the movie, okay, God, you're going to break my brain. Hold on. So it's been 6 years since.
I'm just
but
going
he's
to
been
cut.
dead this whole time.
I'm going to cut all of this, and I'm going to cut to that like waiting lobby music. So don't worry about it. Just whatever conclusion you get to.
It doesn't make any sense that he shouldn't even know who Kelly Clarkson is as a person. He didn't know who Martha Stewart was in Bride of Chucky until he was told.
Oh my God.
Which there is a amazing like throwaway bit in this movie where they're watching TV. Chucky and Tiffany are watching television, and they are leading. It's the footage of Martha Stewart being arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And the television reporter is like, Martha Stewart is set to be executed today.
I didn't notice that. That's so fucking funny.
So stupid.
So basically, Chucky's flipping through these magazines,
Right.
And the magazine that he lands on is a copy of Fangoria, where the woman in the front has like SFX makeup and her face is all torn apart, and he's like, yeah, and he starts jacking off, and it's like he's making these crazy noises, and his head's going back and forth like crazy, and John Waters is under the impression with his camera into the window that Chucky is a little person who is a sexual deviant and is masturbating. And he says, quote, John Waters says, quote, God bless the little people. And this is where the movie's wings really spread their fullest.
Yeah.
Jennifer Tilly eventually knocks out Redman.
No. Tiffany eventually knocks out.
Jesus Christ. Every time that happens, I'm just going to have played under it like every time.
But she knocks out Redman with a like a trophy of Jennifer Tilly's, which is from E Entertainment of like 2002's Most Improved.
And she bashes him in the head.
And then she reveals herself to Jennifer Tilly,
who begins to scream.
Yes. And she kind of berates her on like, kind of selling her body to get this part and trying to sleep with this man so that she can, and then is like, but can I have your autograph?
So Jennifer Tilly goes running and slips and falls and is then also unconscious. And she's in like this super skin tight leopard print dress.
Mm-hmm.
And then they awaken in the bedroom
tied
upstairs. Up. And she is in different clothing.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even know if they're tied up. They put them to bed and because they're knocked out at that point.
The details get so muddy because the rest of the fucking movie is just in this house.
Yeah. The only time that we go out is
it's actually right now where Chucky has discovered John Waters is out there.
Yeah. So while Tiffany is dealing with Jennifer Tilly and a turkey baster, Chucky's like, oh, I've got to go take care of this paparazzi. And I'm going to take Glenn on a little boys' night out.
Steals Redman's Hummer.
Mm-hmm.
Follows him to, and this is something that you pointed out, and I think it's so funny. They go to whatever dark room that
he gives the magazine that he works for, and I don't think it's a real publication.
Yeah, but it cuts to him handling the film in the solution, but he's like doing it barehanded.
He's just like pushing the pictures around in the liquid, and it's like, those are chemicals.
Yeah,
I don't think you're supposed to touch any of them.
And then you've got Chucky delivers a voice line. I think this might be the first Child's Play movie where he never does the good guy doll voice.
He never does it. So yeah, that's actually something that I had written down. It is the first and only film in the franchise that Chucky does not use the good guy doll voice, and it's the only film in the series that doesn't mention Chucky's full name of Charles Lee Ray.
Huh.
So
he makes a noise and he gets John Waters' attention, and then it's like kind of a slapsticky and sort of like he sees Glenn John Waters sees Glenn and like kind of panics and whatnot. Again, it's just the performances though, right?
Yeah.
Because this is stupid. This doesn't make any sense. Why they would follow him all the way. How dolls drove a car all the way. Like it's just ridiculous.
Of course, Chucky worked the wheel and Glenn worked the pedals.
Yes, I understand that is a Looney Tunes bit and a good one. But when you look at it with any sort of objectivity about how good and structured the plot is, it isn't and it's not. But you John Waters acts so terrified and he like smashes up against the wall and
he's really selling it.
Yeah, and hydrofluoric acid spills on him. And that is a pretty good prop.
That
like,
effect
it's pretty
is
good
really
makeup.
good.
Yeah. His face melts and it's a little digital, what looks to be blending from face to prosthetic.
Yes, that's what I think it is. I think he has that prosthetic and they morph between the two a bit with that, effect, but then the actual makeup of it afterwards, I think it's phenomenal.
And here's the thing. Did they need to do that for this movie? No, they could have just cut to the prosthetic. But the thing is we're talking about like the plot not making a lot of sense and it being a little loose and stupid. They still loved making it, obviously.
Yeah.
They gave it their fucking all because that looks pretty good. The fucking head in the beginning looks great. They worked their hardest for the special effects for this, despite it being ridiculous.
Yeah. Tony Gardner and his team, after his untimely passing in this film, his team did a really good job.
Tony Gardner's ghost, his spooky ghost. We cut back.
They take a photo to commemorate Glenn's first murder.
Like a hunting trip. Chucky's got his ugly little teeth. Chucky has such a very specific kind of like piggy face.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. And then Glenn, of course, looks like a goddamn nightmare. But that photo Chucky puts into his pocket. They go back to the house.
Yeah, we cut back to
because that's where the rest of the movie is.
Redman and Jennifer Tilly are having dinner, and Tiffany is reading 12 steps in 3 days. She's doing like the 12-step program for her addiction to murder.
And this is my favorite Tiffany moment of the movie, where it says the steps say that you need to make amends with the people that you've hurt. And so she calls the wife of the widow of Detective Bailey, the cop from the beginning of Bride of Chucky, whose throat she slits with her nail file. She calls his widow
Ruth
and is like, I'm the woman that killed him and I'm trying to be better, so I'm sorry.
And like Ruth on the phone goes from like,
this isn't funny.
Why are you calling?
Right.
To, this isn't funny, to sobbing.
And Tiffany's like, okay, have a good day. Hangs up the phone.
Jennifer Tilly is she's throwing up. She has morning sickness. And then whenever they're having dinner, she tells Redman that she is pregnant and that he has to be the father. He's the only person that she's slept with for a role. And he is very quickly to be like, can't be mine. I had a vasectomy as soon as I got to Hollywood.
Well, and what's funny, which is hilarious, such a good line. But the other thing is, she goes, I do like the sex thing. My Jennifer Tilly's so good, dude.
Yeah.
She's like, I do the sex thing. I act all sexy for like, that's my appearance. But that's because nobody would want to, cast somebody who hasn't been touched by a man in over a year. And it's like, okay, so this is the revelation. I'm pregnant, but it's impossible to be. So maybe I am right for this role of the Virgin Mary.
But he's like, well, no, because I have a very particular idea for my version of Virgin Mary.
Yes.
And she's got to be hot.
And
you can't be pregnant.
Yeah.
And be Virgin Mary.
And he is just he's like smacking his food and eating it really like ugly. And like, Tiffany's whole thing is about like the respect of a prepared meal. And that kind of follows from Bride. And she's just watching him be more and more and more disrespectful to Jennifer Tilly and getting angrier and angrier. And she takes a phone call.
Yeah, she reaches like she's reaching for a knife. And then instead she picks up the phone and she calls a recovery hotline.
Yes.
And basically the guy, they have a discussion, but they never say the word murder. So he thinks that she's, about to relapse doing, something. And he gives her the advice of like, you know what? It's okay. everybody has little slips from time to time.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
And she takes that to heart
And-
for the rest of this movie.
And reveals herself to Redman, cutting his guts open. His intestines spill out.
Steaming.
And then he collapses onto the table, a glass table, which is another really good moment of nuanced puppeteering because he looks down through the table to see Tiffany kind of in between his legs, and she looks psychotic.
Yes.
She's so angry, and she kills him, and Redman is our third official death of the film. And
Glenn catches Tiffany in the act.
and peepees.
I don't know if he pees at that point, but his eye begins twitching. That's the
Yes.
first time that the eye twitch happens. So then the next day is where we get they're watching TV and Chucky's like, I can't believe we're going to have to sit here for 9 months and deal with this. And it's like, no, it was a voodoo pregnancy.
Yeah.
It's accelerated.
Oh my God, this line, dude. It was a voodoo pregnancy. It's like, oh, good. Okay. Cool. It's what I complained about in the last movie, which is voodoo is everywhere. Everyone knows everything about it, yet it's a surprise that they're products of voodoo. It's a world where there's a Voodoo for Dummies book, but people are like, a living doll. And it's like, well, yeah, man.
Jennifer Tilly wakes up very, very pregnant.
Yes.
Calls Joan after screaming at herself in the mirror.
And she's like, you were right. God's punishing me. I'm fat. And it's so good.
And they do this amazing joke of like the 3-way call between Jennifer Tilly, Joan, and then Tiffany on another house line.
And Tiffany keeps answering questions for Joan, who then thinks it's Jennifer Tilly answering those questions. And then she gets confused, and it's so funny.
The playing with the voice, and they both Jennifer Tilly and Tiffany have lines where they mention how the other one has the most angelic voice they've ever heard. And I love that. Chucky sneaks up, attacks Jennifer, and ends up tying her to the bed.
Again.
And yeah. And they
well, so in doing that, the picture of John Waters' melted face, like the hunting photo, falls out of Chucky's his little coveralls.
And when Tiffany comes in, she picks it up. She finds it. And she's like, well, what is this?
I thought we were done killing. And she's so pissed.
And he's just like, well, no, you said you were done.
Yeah.
But like, you know me.
And that's the other thing. He's like, and our kid Tiff, natural born killer. This kid's great at it.
And this leads to another scene of them discussing whether or not, basically having an argument over whether or not Glenn or Glenda is a boy or a girl.
Right.
And it's where we get the end of that in a way of like Glenn saying, look, you guys want these things, but shouldn't it matter of what I want?
Right.
And like, sometimes I feel like a boy and sometimes I feel like a girl, and it would be nice to be either one, but is it possible to be both or neither? Or, and
this is where Chucky becomes Chucky.
Mhm.
Chucky, the killer doll, becomes more progressive than as a series, as a character, than fucking Pixar.
Mhm.
Because Chucky's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck what you want to do. Like, do whatever makes you happy. I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you kill people, I don't care. Do whatever you want.
Oh, and that's the one thing that Glenn basically says is like, I don't know what I am. I just want to be happy, but I definitely don't want to be a killer.
Right.
And Chucky, he goes on this like just rant about how he shouldn't have to be ashamed of being a killer. I'm not ashamed to be a killer. I'm proud of it. It's not an addiction. It is a choice to be a killer. It is not something you should have to hide in the closet.
And again, this is another mention of a closet, which I know that this is more used for a joke, but we mentioned episodes ago that they mention closets often and how things shouldn't be hidden within them, or Chucky will exit them or will pull people into them. And you use that a lot, but now this is so on the fucking nose because you shouldn't hide things in the closet.
And then Redman's dead body falls out of this, closet behind him. And then it's revealed of like, oh,
it's Chucky's face as he slowly just turns to Tiffany. He's like, the fuck is this? She's like, it's not my fault. Rome wasn't built in a day. And he goes, what the fuck does that mean?
And it's also like, well, Tiff, why did you do that? Now I don't have a body.
Right.
So she's like, don't worry. And calls Stan.
I got it. Yeah.
And because she has Jennifer Tilly's voice, Stan just comes a calling.
One of the things that's we haven't established is that every time it cuts to Stan is practicing his monologue where he will tell Jennifer Tilly that he's in love with her.
Yes.
So it's easy to lure him there.
One of my favorite little bits here of like the does not matter. The connective tissue in this movie doesn't matter. Is that she makes that call and he is then the next time we see him, like it's a cut and he is tied in the bed with a sock in his mouth.
So fucking funny.
It's like we didn't have to see the scene of him driving there, coming into the house, them, whatever they did to get him there. Nope, he's just already tied up. We got him.
Yeah. We skip past the reveal of the dolls being alive, all of it. The only thing that matters is that assumedly Chucky bashed him about the head and then tied him to the bed.
Yes. Jennifer is like going into labor. And so while Tiffany is dealing with
a surprisingly good physical performance.
Yeah, it really is. It's revealed that she gives birth to not only one baby, but twins.
A boy and a girl.
Yes. And which kind of solves their problem of the amount of bodies that they needed for everyone.
Yeah.
So Chucky's doing the chant. He is going to move their souls into these other bodies.
And then you have one of the funniest moments of all time where he stops and like police are closing in. It's like, because I think oh my God, I'm getting lost.
Yeah, we may be a little ahead of ourselves. Joan shows up at some point in this. There's a storm happening. Joan shows up.
Right.
More or less breaks into the house. She finds the key under the mat, whatever. The important thing here is whenever she comes in, she trips the alarm, which contacts the police. That's why they show up later.
And with Joan is being stalked by assumedly Tiffany with blonde hair and a wedding dress.
Right.
Like a doll-sized wedding dress.
Chucky is at first the one going to take care of her, and then he jumps out to do something, and before that can even happen, the blonde haired in the wedding dress runs out and has like a match and a hairspray, which Tiffany was using earlier, and sets Joan on fire, who then falls much like the father in the dream sequence from the beginning of the movie off over the banister, smashes dead into the floor of the foyer of this house.
Well, and it's revealed that blonde haired dress wearing figure is now Glenda.
Yes.
Who is made up in the face with like kind of blue eyeshadow and taken on like her mother's sort of attire. And the physical and like kind of emotional resonance has completely changed. It's a completely different person. And it's like kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like alarming.
Yeah. It's flamboyant.
Yeah.
It is very loud and very, shrieking, and
Billy Boyd's voice performance here is great as well.
Yeah, because it does feel like a different person, a
Completely.
different character. Glenda is at that point trying to go, see Tiffany, see mom, like, aren't you proud of me, what I've done here? And Tiff eventually slaps Glenn back into Glenda, or the other way around, slaps Glenda back into Glenn. And in the most heartbreaking to me line in the entire thing, Glenn catches a look at themselves in the mirror and says, "What am I?" And like begins crying.
Yeah.
And it
doesn't belong in this movie. It's so real.
Yeah.
It's very raw,
It
which
is,
is
like-
surprising because, again, this is a sequence with a doll that just killed somebody, a possessed voodoo doll with a twitching eye who keeps pissing themselves. It's heartbreaking. It's so sad.
really, I don't know. It really is. The delivery on it just affects me in a way.
Well, and then they immediately are like, "No, honey, you're okay.
Yeah.
Be whatever you want." And then they're both good parents.
Yeah. They're both just supportive of like, we are here for whatever you want to, whoever you are.
Yeah,
We're here for you.
This movie is specifically odd for me because I remember talking about this movie a very long time ago to a group of people, one of whom had come out, not as trans, but as gay, to an unaccepting family that they had not been in contact with for a long time. And that person kind of smirked and he was like, yeah, well, you know, Chucky and Tiffany are better parents than my parents. And it was just like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. This, it is strange that this happens in the middle of all of this little moment, but, I like those moments where it's like, those are the things, those are where the heart of this movie lies in a strange way. Cause then we go immediately back to the lunacy of Jennifer Tilly is giving birth.
The movie is this bizarre and abstract, stupid vehicle to tell a story about choosing what you want to be. And this is in 2004. We're 20 years before, you know, where the world had really decided that pronouns mattered and all of these things about self-identification were important. And it was a year, 20 years until 2024, which is then, of course, 1 year before none of that mattered anymore.
Yep.
And it was all taken away. And, we all got our armbands and we began the horror, the real horror.
True. Tiffany is playing midwife.
Yes.
To Jennifer Tilly, and who gives birth, like we said, to twins, a boy and a girl. And this is where Chucky is going to do the chant, and then
he gives my favorite little monologue here.
Yeah.
He's like, as a human, I'm fucking nobody. But as a doll, look at what I've accomplished. He's like, I'm one of the best slashers in modern history. And it's like, yeah, I guess the point here is that if I am not this, I am no one. So I don't want to leave here. And then Tiffany's like, Chucky, I don't know who you are. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And she's so like perturbed by all this.
And thematically speaking, it's as much as like Glenn and Glenda are figuring out who they are.
Yeah.
Chucky is now choosing who he is.
Well, Chucky has been trying to be human again since Child's Play 1, never pausing to think, do I want to? Obviously, he has more motivation then than he does now. You've probably gotten used to the way it is by now. You've been doing it for so long. But yeah, no, it is the choice. It is, no, I think I thrive in this. And I don't want to change this. And Tiffany is so determined to be Jennifer Tilly, to be the mother, to be the celebrity, to have the life that she thinks she deserves because she's choosing what she wants. And those things go into odds.
Which then leads to Chucky throwing the knife at Tiffany. But Stan at that point had undone his restraints and dives in the way, gets stabbed. And then dies in Jennifer Tilly's arms.
Well,
more or
her
less.
cleavage a little bit, but yeah.
And the police show up to find Jennifer Tilly tied to a bed with 2 newborn twins, and there are at least 4 dead bodies, 5 dead bodies in that house. Because at one point, Chucky also says he's got more skeletons in his closet and hits another closet door open and 3 bodies that we have not seen pour out.
Yeah. There's no telling who those people are.
Nope. Jennifer Tilly is taken to the hospital, and she is just talking to her lawyer saying that she wants her babies. That's all she cares about. And again, there's no explanation. We cut straight to that. But Tiffany and Glenn are there in the hospital room with her under the bed.
Well, and what's funny is that part of the lawyer's conversation is like, if you keep sticking with the story that you're telling about these dolls, no one's going to fucking believe you. And it harkens back to the first, where Andy's mother is in, at the end of that movie, she backs up, she corroborates his story. And then by Child's Play 2, she's in a fucking asylum.
So history repeats.
Where she belongs.
Tiffany puts something in Jennifer's IV that causes her to like pass out or, and they're in this hospital room. They lock the door. They're going to do the chant and do the whole thing. Yes. And that's when Chucky cuts through the hospital room door with an axe.
Now, in the very beginning of this episode, I said that if you look at the IMDb summary, the thumbnail photo is what I think the funniest part of the movie is. And it's right now. Chucky cuts through the door like Jack Torrance from The Shining. And he smashes through and he puts his face up to the hole that he's chopped out with the axe. And he goes, you know, I can't think of a single thing to say right now. And that is the stupidest, funniest, fucking most meta line. I love it so much. It is so funny.
Tiffany finishes the chant. It doesn't necessarily seem to work. Chucky hits her in the head with the
Forehead.
axe.
Yeah, it's gross.
And she like dies.
The last thing she says, she holds Glenn's hands and says, I want you to be the best boy or girl that you can be possible, and then dies.
And Glenn says, thank you, mother, in Japanese, because it's been this like running bit through the thing where every once in a while he says something in Japanese.
And even though that's sweet, they still do this thing.
Yes. But it's this little heartfelt moment between Tiffany and Glenn. I don't know why. It just works. It works for me a lot in this movie. But because of that, Glenn then has a kung fu fight with Chucky.
Yes. Which ends with him chopping Chucky into pieces. And Chucky's like, yeah, you get me. I'm dying. I love you. And then, Glenn, not as Glenda, as Glenn decapitates Chucky.
And Tilly has woken up. She even like pushes the axe over to Glenn whenever he, commits the final dismemberment. And she witnesses this whole thing, and then she begins comforting Glenn afterwards. And then we get a title of 5 years later. We are back at the Tilly residence. It is a birthday party for the twins,
Glenn and Glenda.
And Jennifer Tilly is talking to her maid, I guess.
I think Yara.
Fulvia is her name.
My God.
And she's basically explaining that like Glenn is an absolute angel. That boy is great, but Glenda is terrifying. A nightmare.
Yeah.
I don't like the way that she looks at me. I don't like the way that she acts.
Then in a sense of what is obvious, insult and rage, Jennifer Tilly picks up the Tiffany doll whose forehead has been stitched together and beats this woman to death with the doll.
Yes.
And then her eyes go weird and green.
Because Tiffany's eyes are green.
Yeah, and it's obvious that the be the best boy or girl that you can be from a dying Tiffany and the doll was Jennifer Tilly. And that Jennifer Tilly's body is now possessed by the soul of Tiffany.
Yeah. We see both,
which sounds really dramatic, but is actually just stupid. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
She cleans up because she's got a little blood on her. So she cleans up and then drags the maid's corpse. And she's like, it's just a little slip.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
And like, as she's dragging the body out in the yard, like through the window, Glenda, the child with like crazy fire engine red hair, is like staring and like smiling. And they like have this moment.
They're like, shh, don't tell anybody. And then we cut out to Glenn, who is, a happy young boy
at the party,
who is voiced still by
Billy Boyd.
Would
you like to say who the actor's name who plays young human Glenn is?
The first name that's given in the credits is Beans.
Like from Even Stevens.
Right, but it's not that actor.
No, it just happens to be a person whose actual name is apparently Beans.
Apparently. So Glenn is there, and he still has the picture of the first murder that he did of Peters.
Yeah.
And they get this big box, and
Jennifer's like, I got buzzed. Tiffany in Jennifer's body is like, Glenn, honey, there's one more for you. There's one more gift. And he takes the gift over to a table and he opens the gift. And like at the beginning, it's the unwrapping.
And then you get this beautiful box and the wrapping paper. And it's all of the classic red, yellow, and blue of a good guy doll box.
Yeah. And then in opening it, it's the severed arm of Chucky.
Who then, Glenn, seeing this, pees himself.
And his eye twitches.
His eye twitches, and he looks,
Which, by the way, that's digital. The eye twitch is digital, and that looks weird as fuck.
Yeah, it looks real not great. And then he turns around to look at his mother, who is like busy showing off the Tiffany doll to the kids. And when he turns back around, Chucky's arms, grabs him by the throat, and then we smash cut to credits.
Yes.
Where we get our first like actual stuff happening in the credits of these movies, because it's all the highlights of all the different kills throughout this entire film. We've never done that before. Not like a blooper reel or anything. It's like literally just the kill scenes from the movie again. Yeah.
So with as odd as the plot is, it's, I'm going to repeat myself here. It is a silly, absurdist vehicle to tell a story about the importance of personal identity and personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
And as nice as that sounds, I would say that the moral lesson is maybe 15% of the runtime, and the rest of it is ridiculous bullshit.
Yeah.
But it's fun, but it's bad.
It is, yeah. It's not, I think I said that at the beginning, it's not a good film by any stretch of the imagination.
But so then this is the question, like we do at the ends of these episodes, because I would say together you and I have agreed subjectively that this is not a good movie. I don't think this is a very good movie. I don't really love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But do you recommend it? Because I gotta say, I would.
Yeah.
Even though I would recommend it saying it's not good.
Yeah.
But it is fucking worth seeing because there's nothing like it. It's so weird.
That's exactly what it is. It is this anomaly of like, this is a thing that got made, it got written, it got produced, and like the puppet effects are good. The fact that like the performances that you get out of every single major person in this movie, even as small as like John Waters as Pete Peters, like his reactions are incredible, and it's really just John Waters doing John Waters things.
Yeah, but that's fun.
Yes. Billy Boyd, his performance absolutely captures my heart in this movie. Everything that he says and does, I just like. I'm telling you, man, that "what am I" line, like it about brings tears to my eyes. It is like I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. It is the dumbest thing in the middle of this movie that is the thing that I'm like,
oh, yeah. And then you've got Jennifer Tilly's played this role now twice.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Dourif's played this role 5 times.
And he's
in other media too,
killing it.
Yeah, because it's taken it's gotten its own legs.
Mm-hmm.
He has more depth in this movie for this character that is again a fucking murder doll than has ever had before, and it's just all of this.
I think a lot of that is because it is the film itself is like they are having to ask the question of why do I do the things that I do?
Yeah,
which we've never had to ask before.
And if you think about it for a second. All of this really kind of deep, philosophical discussion is because in the movie previously, 2 Cabbage Patch Kid dolls fucked each other.
Right.
Thanks for tuning into the Third Channel podcast. Please, if you have the time, rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast apps.
You can follow us on social media at Third Channel Podcast, and you can find me online at @DRosenberg.
You can also reach out to us at thirdchannelpodcast@gmail.com, where we check every message we swear. Third Channel is hosted by PJ Minette
and Derek Rosenberg. Theme song and audio engineering by Fly Guy Ty.
The logo design by Belle DeVelco.
Episode artwork by Nathan Walkington.
Keep it tuned right here to the Third Channel for all things horror. And remember, don't touch that dial. Egg salad and eggs.